Hi, welcome to Infinite Muses podcast, episode 10, with the beautiful Paola Espitia. And
Everyone.
she is a ocean conservationist, and she has a beautiful company called Ola'pi Creative, and we're so happy to have you here. And she is a wealth of knowledge on the ocean and so many other topics. She's also has a marketing company and podcast as well. And so we're just so happy to have you. Thank you for sharing and coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you all so much. This is really exciting. You know, any opportunity that I have to go deep on my favorite topic, the ocean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, so welcome. I've got my clownfish dress on. I've got my crown. We've got our fishnet.
We're all oceaned out for you.
Yeah, so could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I was actually born in the Andes Mountains. And when we came to the United States, we first moved to the eastern shore of Virginia, and maybe that was where I had an opportunity to get my taste of salt water. Mm-hmm. I was really young when I learned how to swim. I was only like 3, and I actually remember that day where I remember being not only the littlest one in the class, but the only one that could swim the length of the pool. And that was just such a feeling that I had of pride. I remember like the drive home and looking down at my badge and just feeling so good about myself. And at that moment, I knew I was going to be a swimmer for all my life. And, you know, I had always, I think it was also at that moment that the water became a huge part of my life. And it was when I was around 8 years old that I came across reruns of Jacques Cousteau's Underwater Worlds and their adventure program. And that's when I realized that you could not only have a job where you were in a bathing suit swimming all day long, but that you were also studying the animals of the ocean and helping to protect the animals of the ocean. And that, of course, was the field of marine biology. So I was also very fortunate to find that that's what I wanted to do in life at a really young age. And then, you know, everything after that was just a matter of piecing together internships and experiences, and then ultimately graduate school to pursue a career in marine biology. And I made it. That's what I moved here to Florida for. I moved here about 14 years ago now to go to graduate school. What's that?
At University of Miami, right?
I was actually just up the road in Dania Beach at Nova Southeastern University. Has an oceanographic center there at the entrance of Port Everglades. And it was perfect for me because I studied coral restoration. And so we could jump in the boats, zip right out to our study sites in front of Fort Lauderdale Beach. And, you know, I was loving everything I was doing. I was a research scientist. I was writing about the health of the coral reefs right here in our backyard. You know, we're really lucky here in South Florida to have the only accessible barrier reef in the entire United States. Oh, wow. And it's right here in our backyard. So it was, you know, so much fun to study that and get to go diving all the time. But as I'm studying all of these critters, and, you know, there is sometimes bad news and you're starting to watch them decline, and you're writing scientific papers about them and reports. And I remember being on Fort Lauderdale Beach and looking around and realizing that between locals or tourists, like there really weren't that many people around me that knew that we could swim to the coral reef right there, and that it was even something that existed. Yeah. And so, you know, that's when I realized.
Is it not good for people to swim with the coral reefs? Does it contaminate the coral reefs?
That's a great question. You know, we're lucky that we do have easy access to the coral reefs. There, you can swim to it pretty easily, especially in areas like Lauderdale by the sea. The barrier reef comes really close to shore. And so it's a nice thing that it's accessible, because that means that we can snorkel it and scuba dive it and actually see it and experience it. But it's a really important point to be very responsible when you're out there on the coral reefs. And, you know, just like in most natural spaces, we want to look and not touch, and especially on a reef where there's certainly things that can sting and bite and give you nasty rashes.
Oh my gosh, I got a rash from the sea fleas yesterday. See?
Yeah,
Everybody?
see, she could diagnose it.
I don't know if it was from the seaweed or from the sea fleas or maybe jellyfish, but after I went swimming, I got a sea rash. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much in the water that can happen too. And so, you certainly have to be careful. This is definitely a look, do not touch kind of experience. But, what I was realizing was that even people who lived here or visited here just had no idea that we had this beautiful gem of a coral reef right there near us and accessible to us. And it was just because it was, underneath the waves, out of sight. So I've since shifted and I've focused more on communication, and I speak about the sea, and I also create media, not only about ocean and ocean issues, but also about the people of the ocean. And that's that show you were referring to. It's called Conversations with Paola.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, I love that. And tell us a little bit about Conversations with Paola and the kind of people that you interview and the whole purpose and mission.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole purpose behind it is to give people a glimpse into somebody else's life who's actually considered a wave maker. So somebody who's doing something good for the waterways right there in their backyard. So we've interviewed an executive director of an outdoor environmental school up in Haines, Alaska, and we got to see what Alaska looked like, because usually we were doing these shows outside where they would be by their water and I would be by our water here in South Florida. So I've gotten a chance to talk to him about how nature and the outdoors really connects people, but also really helps younger people learn and experience amazing things that end up helping to strengthen their curiosity, their connection to nature, their focus. There's so many benefits about being outdoors. I've also interviewed marine debris. I just went brain dead. Plastic-free oceans. I've interviewed scientists that are local, and it really is just a matter to give people a perspective of what is it that others are doing out in the community to help these waterways.
Right. Yeah. That's great. So what would you say is like the most important thing for someone that, just goes through their daily life? Like what could they do in their daily life to help the ocean? A lot of people aren't near the, in New York or anything like that. Like what could they do?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually something that's really simple, and it's this. It's getting outdoors and getting to a blue space. And whether that blue space is a fountain in New York or the lake there in Central Park in New York City, or beautiful turquoise waters that we have here in South Florida, or a stream in the mountains of Colorado. When we spend time outdoors, we are changed. And especially when we spend time in blue spaces, areas where there's water. There's a whole team, there's a new line of science that's actually called Blue Mind Science. And it talks about the intersection between conservation and neuroscience. And we have always felt this connection to water. I know I always ask people when I give talks about the ocean, one of the first questions I ask is, what is your connection to water? What is your favorite memory with water? And for a lot of people, it may have been just something that happened yesterday, or maybe it was something that happened in their youth. But no matter what, everybody has a story about water, and it brings about a big, deep emotion in them. And the more that we can reconnect people to how they feel when they're by water, because oftentimes it's feelings of calm and peace and happiness and fun and fitness, the more that we can get people to relive those experiences and feel good by water, the more they're going to fall in love with it, the more they're going to want to protect it, and then the more they'll be interested in living a way that is sustainable, that's in harmony with the ocean and in alignment with living this binded, connected lifestyle. We are not separate from nature, and especially not from water. It turns out the earth is 70% water, and so too is our brain, our heart, our lungs, and our body, also about 70% water. So we cannot deny that we're water people.
We are water. We are water. I'd like to share, I named my son Ocean, I know you know, but I named him Ocean was because we moved right when I found out I was pregnant. We moved right next to the ocean, and our bed was overlooking on Ocean Drive. We lived on Collins, the beach. And so I would wake up every morning and I'd see that beautiful Miami Beach aquamarine color. And it brought me so much peace and happiness. And I just would wake up every morning looking at that color and on the ocean. And my entire pregnancy was pretty much meditating by the ocean. That's why I named him Ocean. So yeah, no, absolutely. That's, to me, the ocean.
Oh,
Yeah, the most important, the important thing, getting out to the ocean, getting the negative ions from that ocean air, the breeze. And we also have a good friend of ours who does this Tiki Beach, taking people out into the ocean and getting people on the ocean as well to get those negative ions and breathing. And so we're all connected with this ocean, love for the ocean. And thank you so much for sharing. We also wanted to ask a little bit about, what brought you to love the ocean so much. Is there anything in particular that you knew that day that it was like, wow, this is my story of how I fell in love with the ocean?
It started before I remember. My mom has a story when we were in Colombia and I was 6 months old. My son now, Pico Mard, we also named him Mard, Ocean.
Yay.
He's 9 months. And so we were around the same age.
Mm-hmm.
And she was bathing me in a bucket because there was no bathtub. And so I'm in a bucket and she turned around to grab a towel. And when she turned back around, the story goes that I was underwater. And so, of course, she's panicking. And before she can do anything, I pop out and I'm laughing. And so apparently it has just literally been ingrained in me. And in Colombia, they would say that during my mom's pregnancy, she was drinking a lot of water. And they warned her that be careful, you're going to drown your baby. So apparently maybe that has something to do with it. If you drink a lot of water, you'll return a water baby.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's funny because my mom also said when she put me in swimming classes and I was about 9 months, maybe a year old, she said that they threw me in the water and I just knew how to swim. Mm-hmm. And they would use me as the example for the water babies, and they were called water babies. Yeah, the program. And they were like, yeah, we're going to use Carmen as an example as the water baby swimmer. And to this day, I mean, we're all mermaids. We know that, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the ocean also, so I love it. Yeah, up in the DC area, which it took 3 hours to get to, but we would vacation every year in Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. And
that's where my folks are now.
What's that?
That's where her folks are right now.
Oh, nice.
That's
okay. Oh, love it. Yeah, that's like my home. That's how I learned how to swim. So it was funny when you were talking in the beginning just about childhood. I was like reminiscing about, because the waves up there are, 6, 8 feet, like, wow. And I was there, a little 8-year-old, like slamming into the waves. So it's funny now when we go out on the tiki boat, I'm like, I want to be a mate. Like, I'm actually kind of learning how.
She's turning into a pirate captain.
Oh yeah, no, I love the ocean, and I actually love the conservation side of it. It's so important. So I'm working with the owner because she's used to party boats. And so the thing is, like, the very first time I went out with her a couple of years ago, I just noticed all these boats out, and I'm like, trash. Oh my God, all these plastic cups just like flying off the boat. And so, now we have sustainable bamboo plates and things like, so if anything, in the corn cups, so if any, and they're the same price as these other, as the plastic. Wow. It's the same price. Like, people think it's more expensive, but it's like cents. I did my whole research. I have the whole list. So, I want to make sure that things that unfortunately do fly off of the boat, will biodegrade. So
that's a good mission to do, is just really the biodegradable, or if you're going on a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, guys. I think that, a big thing that we talk about is conscious consumerism. And, when we talk about issues like climate change, which also affects the ocean, which ultimately affects our food source. And we're not nearly as happy in dirty ocean as we are in clean ocean. Mm-hmm. And so when we start talking about these huge issues, it becomes overwhelming and people don't know what to do because there seems like there's too much to do. So that's why I say, I think, one of the simplest things you can do is reconnect to water, redevelop that relationship. And then it becomes very natural that you realize, wow, I actually have power in my purchases, and that there are brands that are making more sustainable products. I have the power to make the decision to choose that product over something else that is ultimately going to end up in the ocean and cause it to be, polluting and ultimately affects our well-being. So I think that that's the big piece that I think, especially now with the pandemic, having had us sequestered in our homes and given nature a bit of a break, we're starting to see that there really is nature around us. It really can thrive, and that there is a way for us to live in harmony with that. And it's just as easy as making the right choice.
Absolutely.
So true.
Absolutely. And so how is it being a mom? I knew you before you were a mom, and I remember you guys talking about having a family, and I know her husband Pi is such an amazing, also water lover, a surfer. And I got the opportunity to go to Cuba with them, and they had a surf project in Cuba, and they would teach the children in Cuba. They would have surf camps and teach the children how to surf and bring them surfing supplies and equipment. And it's such a beautiful mission project that I was able to be part of and teach some yoga. So tell us a little bit about that, and also how it is about being a mom.
Absolutely. It was such a joy to have you along, Carmen, and thank you so much for your contribution to the project. It was, as you got to feel, we very quickly became a family. And that's what happens with water people, is you very quickly become a family, because even though we're coming from different places, and but even for some folks, maybe there is language barriers and very much big cultural differences, what brings us together is water. And especially when we're talking about Cuba, it's literally, we see species in Cuba that we get here. They help to replenish our reefs here in Florida. So we're so connected in that way. And it was such a huge deal that we were able to go over there, and they accepted us into the community, and that we could give back to them in the way that we did. And we still keep in touch with Frank and Yaya and Yenya and Frank.
It was a dream. They're dolphin trainers, but they did a dolphin dance, and it happened to be my birthday. And I love dolphins, and there's dolphins back here too. See the dolphins? And when she said, we're going to stay with dolphin trainers and they work at the aquarium, it was just like a dream come true. So thank you so much for making that dream come true, and seeing them. They did a dolphin dance for my birthday, and it was magical. And those are the kind of things that people like Paola, that just bring magic to the world. And I'm so grateful for that experience. So thanks. And also, so tell us about being a mom. How's that?
So being a mom, well, I was in water as much as I could be during my pregnancy. And it actually, before he was born, while I was pregnant, I was speaking aboard cruise ships all about the ocean. And it was an incredible opportunity. I was actually circumnavigating Cuba for a couple months. I was over in Alaska, Puget Sound, and Maine, totally pregnant up until about 8 months pregnant. And It was so much fun. I had lots of really good food. I met really incredible people. And little Pico Mar, before he even knew it, he had been to a lot of different places. So, the day I was giving birth, I was in the ocean floating. We were literally sleeping on the ocean for the majority of his pregnancy. So I can knock on wood that it was really smooth sailing. I couldn't believe how easy the pregnancy was. But, since then it has been, it's a day by day experience, learning all about him. We named him Pico Mar, Pico being the peak of a mountain. He's literally the peak of our lives. And with Pi as his father, it's just such a neat family unit that we've created. The connection is incredible, and it has definitely made me slow down. I've always been somebody who's been very observant, and as a research scientist, you have to be But in this way, he has helped me slow down, and he's in nap time now, but when he's awake, it's just him and I exploring, or, you know, Pi also there with us. Like, we are just constantly outside, feeling the breeze, touching the leaves, looking at the caterpillars. You know, it's really truly reverting back to simplicity. And I love that piece. And I'm so excited to have this opportunity to meet somebody, little Pico Mart, who also loves the outdoors as much as we do.
Yeah,
And it's been so cool.
Sure. Yeah, and
Oh yeah, and we have more adventures with him. You know, we're so excited about that piece.
yeah, I'm so happy for your family growing and that you had a good, healthy, wonderful pregnancy. And so a little bit about any muses or, you know, that inspired you in your life, or in particular, people or muses that you had that inspired you?
You know, it's never one person, right? I've come to realize the importance and the significance of having that, like, circle of especially women in your life, and making sure you always have that circle around you, and realizing that you're never alone. Even when we can't always get together in person, you know, we're never alone. And so I've recently been making sure I hang on tight to that circle of my muses, these women who have lived, you know, more life than I have. They're all different ages. They live all across the world, and yet it's so important for me to make sure that they're in my life at all times. So that's been a big thing that I've been focusing on, is, you know, making sure I stay connected with those women who have turned into this circle of friendship and love and support and encouragement. And especially too, when, you know, we're doing projects and we're living a life that's unconventional, and there's not necessarily a blueprint for it, and we're kind of making it up as we go. But this is the lifestyle that Pi and I love, is being able to be outdoors, to be traveling, to working on meaningful projects. And it's really awesome to have a support us in that kind of lifestyle.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful. A little bit, if somebody wants to connect with you or learn more about your podcast, and how they can check that out, so where would they go? And do you have a website? I know that you also have a marketing company, and that you help people with branding and building their businesses, a branding company with your husband. Hi. So tell us a little bit about how somebody can connect with you.
Thank you so much, you all, for the invite and for welcoming me on here, and for this opportunity, first of all. People can reach us at olapicreative.com, and that's O-L-A, Ola as in like a wave,
Hola.
and then
Hola.
P-I for Pi, Ola'pi Creative. And that's who we are across the socials, Ola'pi Creative. The video show that we do, Conversations with Paola, we do that several times a month. And our next episode is coming up here on Wednesday. We're going to be talking all about sustainable seafood. So keeping with the theme of conscious consumerism and how people can help with ocean health, well, they can pick better seafood.
So do you think
that is a Facebook Live.
The wild farming, is it better? Like, what's the difference between wild? Because I always say, I always hear people saying eat wild instead of farm fish. So is that true, or what's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, that is such a great question, and it's a really popular question. You know, a lot of people want to do the right thing, but they're not necessarily sure how to. And of course, that's unfortunately a complex answer. But, you know, it depends on the species. It depends on what it is you're eating. When it comes to salmon, wild caught salmon from Alaska is going to be better than farm raised salmon. In that particular industry, the salmon are really highly regulated. And so if we want to protect wild populations, we actually want to be buying wild caught, because the farm raised salmon, the farms can sometimes pollute the environment. They can introduce sick fish into the system. And so if you want to protect wild when it comes to salmon, wild-caught salmon are always going to be better. Here in Florida, we are so lucky to get mahi-mahi fresh. We have stone crabs. We have pink shrimp from the Gulf. And of course, there's lionfish. If you ever see lionfish on the menu, go ahead and eat all of it that you want, because it's an invasive species. It's non-native. It's wreaking havoc on the coral reefs, and we don't want it here. So
Eat it.
there's just a couple.
Lionfish, guys, get your lionfish.
That's right.
Clownfish.
Not clownfish. Don't eat the clownfish. Don't eat those clownfish.
But really, if anybody ever wants to talk storytelling, sustainability, or the sea, they can reach out. They can also email me at hello@olapicreative.com.
Great.
Awesome. And we're going to be able to post all that information also on our IG. You can also connect with us on the infinitemuses.com website and email us if anything, and we can connect you with Pai and Paola. And please send my love to Pai. He's such a beautiful person and husband and now father. So make sure that you give him a big hug from me. And thank you so much for coming.
So well, thank you.
And I hope to see you in real time soon. And we can get you on the Tiki Beach charter to do an ocean, sustainable ocean talk or something.
Muse lecture.
A muse lecture. That would be amazing to have
I
you.
would love that opportunity. Definitely. Let me know when you
Oh, that's so exciting.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. We love you.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Bye. Take care.